Welcome to Hope Academy. My name is Mr. O, and today I'm going to be going over the CrackSAT Practice Exam 1, specifically numbers 28 through 30. Feel free to look in the description below to find the exact link to this exam. But that being stated, I'm going to be going over these questions quickly, and then I'm going to go into depth how I do the problem. If you want to watch prior questions, feel free to look in the channel to see the prior questions. And thank you so much for watching this video. And so I'm going to go ahead and start. Okay. It's going to look like that. No, it's not that. It's going to go with V. No. So for number 28, the answer is B. And now I'm going to explain to you how I was able to get to this answer. So the question asks the premise around the idea of inverse. And I'm going to write the word inverse. So when we're doing inverse-based questions, the idea is that I switch the x and the y. So for the question for this, basically, when I do the inverse of this, when I flip them around, for x squared, it's technically be f of x equals to y squared, technically. For this one, it'll be f of x equals to y cubed, and this one, f of x will be equal to absolute value of y. But the idea is that when I flip x and y, the visual will flip too. So, for example, normally x squared will look like the standard u that will exist in a graph, but for y squared, it's going to look something like this. For y cubed, it's going to look something like this, where it's all flipped sideways. And for absolute value of y, it's going to look something like this. And because of the special rule called the line test, or the vertical line test, and I'm going to write the term so you can look it up later on, vertical line test. How this concept works is that if I could draw a line from top to bottom and it does not hit more than 1 point, then that graph is a function. So when I'm doing the vertical line test for these type of questions, for example, the y squared, if I draw it down, it's going to hit it twice, thus why this is not a function, thus y slashed out 1. For the second choice, when I draw the vertical line test down, it only hits 1 point, thus why it is a function. And for the third one, when I draw the line down, it hits two points, and thus why number 3 does not work, and thus how I was able to get to the answer of B. And to continue on to the next question, was the limit... Okay. 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 So for number 29, my final answer is D. And now I'm going to explain to you how I was able to get to this answer. For number 29, the important thing is not to get caught up on the idea of what a limit is. The idea behind a limit, if you do want to know, is just the idea that a graph infinitely goes towards a specific value or specific point in the graph. And so for number 29, the question states that limit of x going towards -1 of your x cubed minus x over x plus 1. And the idea behind this question is that when you plug in -1 right now as it is, what's going to happen is that it's going to become undefined. Thus, the idea behind limits is that I need to simplify the function as much as possible before plugging in that x is going towards -1 or x equals to -1 to see what potential value comes out. And thus, when I was doing this type of question, I factored x out because they both share a common factor. Thus, I got x squared minus 1 over x plus 1. I knew that I could factor this out to make it x minus 1, x plus 1. And you could do this by using either box method, diamond method, factoring, foiling, whatever not you want to call it. And thus, I got to this equation. Afterwards, the top and bottom both share the same sort of equation. Thus, in the end, it'll be x minus 1, and that's the most simplified format for this equation. And I'm going to plug x going towards -1 or -1 into both of these x's. So -1 minus 1, which is -1, -2 multiplied will be 2. And thus how I was able to get to the answer of D for number 29. And to continue on to the very last question. So for number 30. Okay. Interesting, so I plugged it. Okay, got it. Okay, I'm gonna test this out then. Okay. Let's see if A works. This cancels out. These cancel out. These cancel out. I guess 7x. Okay, so for number 30, my answer is A. For this type of question, there is no real easy trick to do this question, at least just right off the top of my head. For this type of question, you actually do need to sort of use brute force. But the name of this concept, in case you do want to know, is called the composition of functions. And I have a video on this if you do want to look into what this means exactly or how to do this type of question. But that being stated, in order to do composition of functions, you must understand that we could replace f of x, these different type of functions, into each other, and they'll represent that part of x. So f of x, when it is equals to this whole equation, and it says g of f of x equals to x, that means that when I have g of x, the original function of x, I need to test all of these possible values, a, b, c, d, e, to see which one will cancel out to eventually become x. So I started off with a because I wasn't sure. I don't know if it's going to help me get to the answer, but I looked at a and I thought maybe I might as well try that. So what happened was that I plugged it in. So I replaced my x with this function e to the 7x plus square root 3 over 2. I replaced it with that and made this equation. Afterwards, I saw that 2 times and these 2's will cancel out. And thus, I was left with e to the 7x plus square root 3, which was part of the equation still, minus square root 3. I noticed that square root 3's will cancel out. And thus, technically, I was left with, and I'm going to write the actual terminology right below so that you can see what I did afterwards. I actually wrote afterwards ln of e to the 7x divided by 7. And you have to understand that by the rules of logarithms or whatever not, I could bring this 7x down. So it would be ln of 7e over 7. But ln of e, we know the property for logs is that ln e will become 1. So it'll just be 7x over 7, which is how I was able to get to the answer x. It's not always the case that I'm able to get to this answer so quickly like this, but that being stated, I was a little bit lucky that A will be the answer. Some ways that you could also tell is the fact that when I need to get to the answer of X for this question, some clues that will help me get to the answer faster is the fact that somehow I need to bring this X down with some sort of ln value. So for example, B is not going to help me. C is not going to help me. For certain, E is not going to help me, not because there's no ln, but the fact that ln E is going to be 1, and that's not going to help me. So technically, by deductive reasoning, you could take out B, C, and E automatically, and know that A and D are automatically going to be the only possible choices available. Because you need to solve for X, you need to get this X somehow down and isolate it to get to this answer of X. And thus concludes my explanation for number 30 and for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please do subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, subscribe or follow us on Twitter so that we could continue to make videos like this. I hope you have a wonderful day.